Welcome to my channel, everybody. My name is Ryan and this is Rainier Books. It's the end of week 2 already in January of 2021, and today is the 17th of January, which is actually my father's birthday. My father would have been 94 years old today, which he isn't, of course, because he died 9 years ago. Anyway, 2.5 weeks have gone of this new year, and it doesn't seem to be so much better than the last year, do you think? What have we experienced? I mean, there was an unprecedented attack on the heart of American democracy at the Capitol on January 6th, and still the FBI and the Secret Service and police are looking for perpetrators who breached the fences, who went into the Capitol and committed a series of very, very serious crimes. COVID-19 is surging everywhere around the world. I just heard yesterday that the county of Los Angeles, California, now has registered more than 1 million cases of COVID-19 only in the county of Los Angeles. More than 400,000 Americans have died of COVID, and yes, on Friday, we also reached the number of 2 million deaths in the whole world. This is horrible. And there's a new strain coming from Brazil, which the experts, which epidemiologists are not so sure about, not 100% sure about if the vaccines that we have by Pfizer, by Moderna, and by AstraZeneca are really covering this new Brazilian variant. And the city of Manaus in Brazil, which is quite remotely in the Amazon, but still has 2 million people there living, which is not connected by roads to the rest of Brazil, but only by the water, by the Amazon, and by air travel, by plane travel. The city of Manaus is in such a dire situation that they have already gotten oxygen from Venezuela, which is the poorest, by far the poorest country in South America. So this doesn't really look good, but let's get to the books and let's get to the reading of this week number 2 of 2021. Let's get started with the video. I finished one book last week, and the one book that I finished was Anne Applebaum's The Twilight of Democracy, the seductive lure of authoritarianism, with this very, very dark cover in dark blue. It was published, the version that I have was published by Doubleday in New York, which I think is a label of Penguin Random House. This has about 200 pages, and I started it at the end of November. The Twilight of Democracy. For those of you who don't know much about the author, Anne Applebaum, she is currently a staff writer of The Atlantic. She has been on the editorial board of The Washington Post for many years. In 2004, she won the Pulitzer Prize for her book, Gulag, a history about the history of the Soviet concentration camp system that has killed millions of people, and where actually slavery work was in the 20th century a part of European history, I would say. And the Gulag was first abolished by the last Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev in the 1980s. If you see a city like Vorkuta, which is situated above the Arctic Circle in the Pechora region of Russia, where they have a lot of coal mines in that area. Vorkuta, as the great Polish journalist Ryszard Kapuscinski has said, Vorkuta was built literally on the bones of prisoners and slaves from the Gulag system. I really hardly recommend the book The Empire by Kapuscinski, which is still, I think, my favorite non-fiction book of all times. But back to Anne Applebaum. She started her career as a journalist. She was working in the UK, writing for British newspapers, and she also met Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, when she was working as a journalist in the UK many, many years ago. So she has an owner. She's also married to Radoslaw Sikorski, who is the former Minister of Defense and the former Foreign Minister of Poland. That is also why she has not only the American but also the British, why she also has the Polish passport. She's also a Polish citizen, and Applebaum. And she speaks both Polish and Russian, so she's really an expert on Eastern Europe, you can say. This last book that she has written, the current book, Twilight of Democracy, The Seductive Lure of Authoritarianism, is a book that is actually the starting point is a party that she and her husband gave in 1999 on the brink of the new century to come, the 21st century. And there were a bunch of people who are more or less academics, all of them, many of them tending towards the conservative side of things, but people who have changed over the years, and some of them have become more liberal, maybe like an Applebaum, but some of them have also become more conservative and definitely right-wing and are part of Eastern European countries' parties like the ruling parties of Hungary and of Poland. So this is based on personal relationships. She describes how right-wing conservatives and alt-right movements have gained influence and have gained power in Poland with the Law and Justice Party and in Hungary with Viktor Orban's party, and are trying to gain power in the United Kingdom. She's discussing the Brexit movement. She is discussing Spain and the new Vox movement in Spain, which is conservative and brings back a lot of the nationalism that was apparent in the dictatorship of Franco. And of course, she talks in the end about the situation in the United States of America. So she tries to get to the core of the big divide that characterizes many of our countries today. And Applebaum is, and I want to read a part of this book where she's talking about social media and where she is also looking for the reason of the big divide that we experience. The issue is not merely one of false stories, incorrect facts, or even election campaigns and spin doctors. The social media algorithms themselves encourage false perceptions of the world. People click on the news they want to hear. Facebook, YouTube, and Google then show them more of whatever it is that they already favor, whether it is a certain brand of soap or a particular form of politics. The algorithms radicalize those who use them. If you click on perfectly legitimate anti-immigration YouTube sites, for example, these can lead you quickly to just a few more clicks to white nationalist sites, and then to violent xenophobic sites. Because they have been designed to keep you online, the algorithms also favor emotions, especially anger and fear. And because the sites are addictive, they affect people in ways they don't expect. Anger becomes a habit. Divisiveness becomes normal. Even if social media is not yet the primary news source for all Americans, it already helps shape how politicians and journalists interpret the world and portray it. Polarization has moved from the online world into reality, writes Anne Applebaum here on page 113. And she also says that one of the great things that we have to do to overcome our divides is to redefine our nation, our notion of what a nation is, where she's writing in the end here of her chapter, The Unending of History. All of these debates, whether in 1890s France or in 1990s Poland, have at their core the question that lie at the center of this book. How is a nation defined? Who gets to define it? Who are we? For a long time, we have imagined that such questions were settled, but why should they ever be? Anne Applebaum, The Twilight of Democracy. Really a good book to read. Then I started a beautiful new buddy read with Courtney Farrader, and we are reading, she's actually listening and I am reading, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies by Deesha Philyaw. This is almost matching with my shirt here. The color of the brown background color of the wall here. Deesha Philyaw is writing this book. It was published by West Virginia Press in the United States, which is not a very common publisher. It's always beautiful to see smaller publishers. And this was a finalist of the National Book Award last year. Short stories, I think 9 or 10 short stories of The Secret Lives of Church Ladies. Courtney and I, we have read 2 of them, and I just can say about 2 stories that she has written here. And the first one is called Eula, and the second one is called Not Daniel. Yeah, and they're really sexual stories, with Eula being a woman who has occasional sex with another female, with a friend, but she considers herself to be a virgin because real sex is only with a man. 2 adults who have their mothers in a hospice. They have dying mothers. They visit their dying mothers. And after they've visited their dying mothers, they have sex in the car, either of Not Daniel or of the eye narrator. And this is also a very strange and special story. And I wonder how this continues, if we get more versions of sex among church ladies. Very interesting, but very nicely and written by Deesha Philyaw and The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, a book that I'm reading. I hope that I have finished it until next Sunday. When having finished a nonfiction book like Anne Applebaum's Twilight of Democracy, I always start a new nonfiction book. That's my new plan for 2021 at least. So the next one that I will start very soon, maybe today, is by the British journalist Maeve McClenaghan, and this is called No Fixed Abode. Subtitle is Life and Death Among the UK's Forgotten Homeless by Maeve McClenaghan. Maeve is an investigative journalist from the United Kingdom. She works, she's a member of the Bureau of Investigative Journalism in the UK. Her work has also appeared in The Guardian. No Fixed Abode is a book about the current situation of homeless people in the UK. I registered on my last visits in the UK in 2019. When I had the opportunity to be in Brighton, in London, in Glasgow, and in Edinburgh, that homelessness is rising in the UK. That was my very subjective impression, which is not founded on numbers. But I thought that the divide between the rich and the poor in the UK was growing. And homelessness is also an issue in Germany. It's even here in Sweden an issue, and of course in the United States. I was shocked when I came to San Francisco and saw a bit of the Tenderloin district, and I was shocked in Portland and in Seattle, and everywhere is homelessness, and we seem to accept homelessness because when I remember President Trump, he was all the time saying how good the United States are before the COVID crisis set in 2019. And I always thought about the homeless people, hundreds of thousands of people who cannot afford a roof over their heads. And this book sort of is very interesting to me because this is one of the issues that I am always interested in. How can people be homeless, and what can we do to get that out of our states, of our countries? And this was all for today, except one thing. Yeah, I might DNF the first book of 2021. And I'm reading, as I told you last week, I'm reading American Spy by Lauren Wilkinson on Kindle. And I have read 2.5 chapters so far. And I'm not so convinced that this is my kind of book. Lauren is telling the story of this, which is actually a very interesting setting because the American Spy is about an Afro-American spy. Think of that. That's so rare that we have an Afro-American as a spy for the US who is sent to a country in Africa to become the lover of a very important politician in order to overthrow his regime. I think that's the story. But she tells it in a way that I really don't like. She tells it to her small children, the American Spy, and as an eye narrator. And I don't like she addresses the children all the time. And I don't get connected to the book. So I will decide that until next week if I continue with American Spy or not. This was everything I had to say for today. I hope that you liked the video. I hope that you liked the books that I was talking about. Until now, everything seems to be safe in the United States. It is Sunday today, and as we know, right extremists, terrorists have announced to protest with guns, to march with guns to the Capitol in Washington, but also to the state capitals in the 50 states. Until now, everything is safe, and I hope that everything stays safe until today, and I hope that the inauguration on Wednesday will be safe for the new president-elect Joe Biden. So have a great, peaceful week, and try to stay safe. Wash your hands, wear a mask, socially distance, and I see you soon. Bye-bye.